Hi, it's Tiffany Lorraine Galloway, certified high performance coach with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. This month, we're talking about resilient truth and living it to the fullest. We've talked about identity and our truth before, but this is a little different. This is life hit you after finding your truth. How are you going to keep it? How are you going to keep resilient when the going gets tough? With me today, I have Sasha, who is a certified mindset coach, to discuss this today with you. Sasha, thanks for being here with me. Please tell us more about you.
So my name is Sasha Harris Greenidge. I'm a certified mindset coach. I've also been a special education educator for 20 years. And I have two beautiful kids, so that makes me very resilient. And I enjoy using the tools Gene Keys and Human Design to help women especially stay resilient, stick on their path of their purpose and what their life's work, what they're here to do.
How do you think we start that journey to find that?
Oh my goodness. Well, the first thing, especially that I've learned and what I find with clients and everybody, is to turn off all external noise. Mm-hmm. That means turning off what others think, their perceptions of you. The answers aren't there. Like you and I are mere guides to helping everyone kind of go inward and finding their purpose and their life's work and things like that. But the main thing that I found is shutting off, and this is going to sound crazy to some, stop listening to the news, turning off a lot of noise, because it's not my voice and it's not a positive voice. I really stopped listening to a lot of people that I started to see weren't serving me, and I just allowed them to fall away. It was a lot of letting go. And not to say nobody's safe, but, family, really close friends that I had for a really long time, just because they have this special title doesn't entitle them to continue to hurt you and have to work that much harder in your life when they're supposed to be a support.
And that is so much of putting the boundaries around your truth, and you'll evolve and you'll change. And sometimes that means the people in your circle change. And if you're someone who's a major shifter in your family or a chain breaker, or you've made a major change in your life, sometimes you can find yourself standing alone, but that's not a bad thing because you need to hear that voice. That is just yours and your truth. And I agree with you on the news and all the things, because our mind will take everything in, everything we see, everything we hear, it'll take it in. But I'm starting to learn that negative and positive things cannot be in the same place in the mind. You cannot have fear and love in the same place. You can't have anxiety and gratitude in the same place. So we're really choosing every day what we're going to fill ourselves up with and what we want to be our truth. And right. If we notice people are in a pattern that doesn't serve us anymore, there's no reason not to put a boundary around that. Doesn't mean the relationship necessarily has to end. In some cases, if it's toxic, it's abusive, it's manipulative, yes, okay, those sometimes have to end. But it can just be a new boundary of like, we're still friends and maybe we do this together, but that's all we do.
Yeah.
Because who we allow in to influence us also influences our kids. And they have to see that they get to choose who their friends are. And it's okay to be a little choosy, and it's okay for that to change and evolve as well.
Yeah.
And that's really important for them to have that voice with their truth. What do you do with your kids to help them have their voice?
Oh my goodness. The Gene Keys was really powerful in helping me really, I know we're all supposed to treat them differently and really look at what their needs are separately, but knowing their design and where they're at now, I'm able to parent in a very specific way. And like you were talking about with being a chain breaker, that's what I'm doing now. So there's a lot of things that I found myself saying that like kind of sounded like my parents that I kind of had to just kind of stop. And that is those, they didn't ask to be here. They didn't ask to, it's not their job to. It's hard. We as parents just expect them to do what we want them to do, and that's not the case. And yes, they're children, and yes, we expect a certain behavior out of them. But what I learned to do is give them their power and give them their voice and learn to talk through things. So that way they have a boundary, and they don't ever feel less than. That would have been absolutely unacceptable with my parents, but it's something that my kids come to me. My kids respect me. And I respect them. And it's not their job to sit here and be like, oh, you're here to make me happy. And that's like that. I think that's the biggest mistake that parents make. And
I can't stand when parents treat their kids like they're possessions, that they own them.
They're their own people. They're their own design. They have their own feelings. And, you know, we're not born here to make you happy. And I know that's going to be a really tough thing for a lot of people to kind of comprehend, but they're their own person, and they should only be your cherry on top. You are supposed to make yourself happy. That goes down a whole nother topic, but it's really important. But they have this self, you know, my kids tend to not go with the crowd. If they find themselves like in situations that they don't like, at least now they question it. Like, you know, I'm now middle schooler. I can't believe it. And I have a 16-year-old, and they're quirky and they're weird, but they love themselves, and they don't see themselves saying like, I have to have the latest thing, or I have to do this. Like, they're so happy within themselves that like I'm actually kind of proud. Like I'm like, Kayla, do you think you want to go to prom, or do you think you want to go here? And she's confident and like, no, I don't really want to do that. Like, you know, other girls are into makeup. I just got her for her sweet 16 a ball python. So that's like different. So I like, when I step
you allow
back,
them to be unique. You're letting them be who they are. And that's going to serve them so much better, because half of messing the kids up, and I don't want my children at 30 or 40 to start figuring out who they are. Like, and I want to honor that from the beginning. The minute I know I can honor their truth and give them their voice, I need to give that to them. That's going to serve them so well in life, and let them embrace that they're unique and that they're different. The people today who are doing well are the people that know who they are and what gifts and what talents and what value they have to offer their world, and embrace it. And we're in a time and age where that's opportunities everywhere for that. But if you don't know who you are and you're trying to copycat someone else, or you're trying to do it for mom, or you're trying to do it for your church, or you're trying to do it for something else, it loses its authenticity. It loses that spark of, wow, that person's really on fire and really lit up about that. So when we see that in our kids, it's so important to embrace and support that.
Yeah, because you want to jump in.
This is true for you. I think this is true for you. Is it true for you? I mean, I think that's the dialogue you have to have, so that they can go, yes, this feels good for me, or no, I don't want to do that.
And they're very like, it's amazing. Especially my 11-year-old, who's just like, he can just kind of decide when it's like, okay, they're too much, or they're doing things that I don't like, and I just kind of need time for myself. And it's just kind of respecting that. And same thing with my daughter. They have a sense of self. And it's beautiful, because I am said adult that like literally 30, probably 35, and I am unlearning so many things. Whereas right now, I bite my tongues. Both of them they may or may not go to college, and everyone's gasp. That it's unheard of. But everything that they plan and everything that they want to do, it makes sense. And they've thought this through. He could change his mind, but like, who am I to, and it's on the tip of my tongue, but maybe you could, you know, but it's giving them that authority of their life. Who knows what they can do, like turn into a Gary Vee, who like, you know, sucked at school and just, you know, and
that's the trailblazer. We have more entrepreneurs today than ever before. And it's an opportunity. And I think parents are smart to embrace it. It's where the world is
different world too. Like you said, the opportunities, it's just a different world. He can literally, kids his age are on YouTube and doing amazing things. And
It's
It
more
takes
about a
that
skill set
confidence.
that you have now, even in the resumes when you put it out there. It's more about what can you do? What are the results that you can give? What is the
Mhm.
value that you offer?
Yeah,
So, piece of paper degree just says you went through a series of classes and you maintained a certain
that's it.
grade. It still doesn't say what can you uniquely do. And so,
Right.
the more that we can let kids know that you're allowed to be unique and different, and that's what's great about
Yeah.
you. Embrace it and don't give a hoot what anyone else thinks. Now, that doesn't mean don't be respectful. That doesn't mean don't be a good citizen. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
don't have goals. But it's all right that your journey and your path is unique. That's your truth. And when you are living your truth, you're going to do good things because you're going to be in alignment with who you are and at the right vibration to attract the right people and the right opportunities to move in that way through your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How would you define resilience?
Oh my goodness. Resilience is in the face of everything and anyone, just walking the path of your own purpose and truth.
Mm.
It is, and having the design that I have, which is failing forward and trial
Yeah.
and error, um, and living that year after year and just being like, okay, and learning to accept that. That is resilience to me. It's just picking yourself up and knowing your path and not really seeking anybody else's, and
Mhm.
staying focused. And despite everything, it's that motion of picking yourself up when you've kind of really been beaten down. And I've had to do that several times, and whether it was relationships or a job or things like that, where I had to do that. And that's what resilience is to me. It's no matter what, knowing where your purpose is and just picking yourself up and following that path, and just keep going. It's
And I
not
think it
quitting.
refines you in a way. I mean, the
Yeah.
purest gold has to go through a really hot fire to get all the impurities out. So I
Hmm.
always think that, if you're going through tough things, it's because there's another level to you. There's a deeper,
Oh
pure
yeah,
version of you that
definitely
needs to
leveling
be
up.
rebirthed. And that happens for our kids too. And I think that's when it's really hard as a parent, when you want to take a consequence away or a pain away or a hurt away, and you can't, because if you do, they won't learn resilience.
It's
And
right.
that's the hardest part, I think, of parenting is we hurt when they hurt. We feel their pain and we can't shelter them from it, because if we do, they won't understand that that's part of life
Yeah,
and
the
they'll feel
lesson
very
itself
defeated.
is that. That's the lesson in itself. And to just kind of bite my lip and just kind of not say anything, or, just sometimes even when they're going through things and just listening, and not saying much, or pointing out the good that they did do, like, wow, that was really good that you stuck up for yourself, and only when asked, like, kind of offering that advice of like, oh, maybe you can compromise with this person or whatever, but in no way just saying, well, you should have done this. Like, should is such a bad word. Like, I can't I can't stand, oh, you should do this. But it's having them have their own trial and error and just kind of going through that, because that's where I think my parents sometimes prevented me from growing. It's not a blame thing. It's just an observation. And, had I been able to fall harder a couple of more times, when I was their age, I think things would have kind of worked, they would have worked out
Yeah,
a
I
lot differently.
agree. I came from a very controlling and very confined box that I was put in, thinking that was going to serve me well, and it didn't when I got out on my
Yeah.
own at all. And so I'm very much about making sure my kids are prepared to be out on their own, and that they're having those conversations with me. They're making mistakes while they're under my care, so that the consequences aren't as big. Now, there'll still be consequences, but they have me to love them and guide them through it and to be that support.
Yeah.
And if I can do that now, we never know what's going to happen in our children's lives. But if we can be
Yeah.
that now while they're at home and they can see, oh, mom's there for me, mom supports me, mom still loves me, then, when things in life happen and the relationship changes and they're adults, they'll come back to you and they'll want you to be there with them through it, whatever it is. Because as an adult, they can choose not to have you involved in the hard times or
Right.
not even tell
And
you.
it's so important. That's why I'm so happy at these points where some of the stuff that like you hear goes on either at the high school or even my son at that elementary school level. And I just have to not say anything and just kind of be like, but in my head, bombs are going off. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mama
like,
bear.
what? Are you kidding me? What is wrong with that child? But you just you hold on and you just kind of listen and just kind of I think that's what we all, I don't want to say should, but what we all really need to do is just kind of not be so quick to judge and kind of hope that they make that right decision for themselves. But if not, like if they're coming to talk to you and just kind of share, it's just listening. And then sometimes they will come to you and ask just for advice and things like that. And, I always like to preface like, oh, well, whatever you feel comfortable with or whatever your gut is telling you, that's something also that I really am starting to instill because I've ignored mine my whole life.
Yeah.
It seems like a really bad idea, like, or maybe because my intuition is to kind of wait for clarity. And that I've gotten that nudge a couple of times where it's like, maybe don't jump into that right away and just kind of think about things. Some people have that intuition where it's their gut. But either way, a lot of people ignore that. And then
and I think everybody's waiting for some like big sign of this is your gut telling you what to do.
No,
or there's like lightning or there's like an angel or something. It's not a big thing. It's not a big thing.
It's listening to your body because we're in the mind too much.
And it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what our kids need to know. Like maybe peaceful calm is what is the right answer, or like a warm burning of the heart, that's your warm answer. Maybe it's in your gut, but like you're saying, if you're not in your body, and we kind of live in a society, at least on the Western culture versus the Eastern culture, we're not in our bodies nearly enough. And we're learning now that we really need to be. We need to understand chakras and energy and alignment and grounding way more than we ever have before.
Because it's not woo. It's straight facts. Like the amount of difference. It's frequency. And Albert Einstein said it himself. It like literally is like frequency to listen to these to kind of listen to your body and what's really going on in there. It's just I think a lot of people
what's true for you may not be true for me in the same situation. And that's the same thing with our kids. What you would do in that situation does not mean that's what your kids should do in that situation. Right. Like, and honoring that they can feel in their gut what's the right thing for them to do and supporting it. And it may look completely different than what you expect and maybe make you a little bit uncomfortable. But when they are able to voice that, just think of the power you've given them, that they're able to own their body, feel their body, and know when they are in their truth.
Yeah.
Then they're not going to have to figure that out later. They're going to know because you're honoring it. And it's a level of respect in the relationship with our children that I think is beyond the norm. But you have to have either a bad experience, I think, growing up that you're breaking, or a level of awareness in child development and maybe special education. You can speak to that a little bit. Yeah. But it's a heightened sense of intention with what you're doing and being to be unselfish in the relationship and not make it about you, make it about them, but also about the relationship and your love, but more about what serves them in this moment, what's true for them.
Right. And it's really having that respect for their boundaries, what they're sharing. And like you said, that intuition piece is just so important. And when they're validated, because my daughter will even say sometimes like, oh, that wasn't really like a great idea. And like, I'm really glad that I kind of, something didn't seem right, mommy. And I just like, at least it's validating to them that it's like, okay, like you were able to listen. Or sometimes like if I do have that human moment, because we as humans love ourselves and want like we like to think that we're right about things. Like I have that human moment too, where I'm like, oh, maybe this might be like a better option. And she sticks with her guns. And, no matter which way it went, at least she says like,
Yeah.
well, that's what I wanted to do. Like whether if it goes great, it's like she will rub it in my face. See, mommy, I told you. But then if not, she's like, I'm happy I did what I wanted to kind of do in this situation. And
It's
now
their life.
it doesn't work.
It's not your life. It's not a redo for your
Right.
life. Your kids are
And
not a redo for your dreams.
Right.
It's
So
their life.
and respectfully, they will like check me. And my son, like, I know if there's human design people out there, if you saw my son's chart, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can see why he's so stubborn. He's defined pretty much in his entire chart, except for one area, which makes him a projector, which then puts him in a whole different thing. But he is just like everything that he really learns is supposed to be within himself. He's not really looking to anybody else for advice or anything like that. He has an inner knowing everywhere. So it's just like to tell him anything. And when I finally saw that, I was just like, okay, I got to really back off, and I have to be very careful in how, but we have a beautiful relationship. It's just a lot of things where he cannot be told a lot of things of what to do, because he's just like, I just know that this is what I want to do, or I know that like that's not right for me. I don't feel like, so I've had to take giant steps back and kind of respecting certain things.
How did you do human design on your kids? Did that come as a certified mindset coach? Like, were they willing to do that?
Well, we started studying. Gene Keys. We went through that, and then we are starting to really. Human design is something I always think, I'm like, oh my goodness, I got it, and we go deeper, and I'm like, whoa. But it's something that I finally got ahead of for me, because you have to study yourself first. And I know my Gene Keys inside and out, and they're pretty much the same, similar thing. But I was curious, and I was like, to see certain things and like personalities and everything. And oh my God, he was the big shocker. My daughter, I get there's a lot of stuff in defined head and all of that. She's extremely smart. He is just like, everyone's like, he's not listening. He drives my mom crazy and he can just be so stuck, which is good and bad, because we do have shadows and those things like, so he has to be careful that his stubbornness doesn't get in the way. But to kind of see that, it was like, whoa, because being a projector means you are that advisor, as they say in like, human design for business, they call you an advisor. So he's meant to, like, because I'm what they call a manifesting generator, and human design for business, they call it an express builder. But he's that kid that is supposed to be telling us manifesting generators what to do. He could read the room and just kind of really zoom into a problem. And he does that. Like just now when we were speaking before, it was like, why don't you go here? Like he has these logical things. He'll zoom in.
I got it.
So that's what they have. For them, though, they have to just kind of remember that they need to ask for permission, because sometimes it's very intrusive, because they're very like, he'll narrow in on something that you didn't think that like he could know or pay attention to.
And that's honoring our child's truth at another
level.
Yeah. Like being willing to dig and find some tools and find some ways to build the relationship and just communicate in a way that's effective.
Yeah.
And help them know, oh, here's your strength. Here's your weakness. Here's how
school is exhausting for him. So for some people, it's like, well, what do you mean? Like I would come home. I was always taught to come home and do that homework and everything else. My daughter could do homework in her sleep. So I've learned to leave her alone. But for him, it's like, I've learned to leave him alone, because school is draining for him. Like energetic, that piece that makes him that projector is like that's energy. He doesn't have it. It's not the one part of him that's not defined. And so when he gets home from school, if he chooses to go ride his bike with his friends or alone, or if he wants to kind of watch TV or something like that, anything to just expunge whatever energy he had to like do to just kind of be a good student like for that day, that's what I do, and I honor it. Some days it's like it sucks when it's like 8 o'clock at night and we're like he's only then starting homework. But I've learned that the amount of fighting that we've had, like it was just like he was done. He was
Yeah.
literally done for that day. And sometimes it's even the
I've
next
said
morning.
some stuff about, not in the same way, but some things, for example, that makes me think of is some kids clean differently. Some
Mhm.
kids can do the really nice, neat. I have one daughter who doesn't mind sitting there and taking your time and folding and putting it all away nice and neat. And she has her drawer for this and her drawer for that. But my other daughter, just her personality is give me like 4 totes at the bottom of my closet and I'm going to put my shirts, my pants and this and that. I don't need it organized. I don't want it fancy. I need to see it. And it's just part of who they are. And when you can honor that, it just takes the fight out of it. You're just like, oh, that's how you do things. It's different than how I do it. It's not wrong. It's just different than how I would do it. And if it works for you, it works for you. And so I think with everything we're saying, we're not saying it's a free for all with your kids.
Oh, absolutely
Find
not.
what works for them that honors their truth and allows you to have respect in the relationship with each other as they grow and they evolve and they step more into who they're meant to be.
And they actually end up being really amazing kids. It's not like I'm not trying to be their best friend. They actually like the second the stops, like they actually sit there and they just, mommy, can I talk to you about something? And it's like a really like my son's 11 and she's 16. And from like since they were, younger, more so now that like I've been doing this kind of work, it's been like a godsend. It's not sitting there and like being friends. They know that like, anytime they need any kind of extra help or anything like that, at least they're able to tell me when they're uncomfortable or they don't feel like doing something some days or whatever, but it's
Because they've
honoring.
not been told their emotions are wrong.
Right.
It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. And they've been given the way to express those things instead of maybe being in the household that was like, no, I don't want to experience you feeling that. So don't feel that. I know that was me. I mean, I wasn't allowed to cry. I wasn't allowed to argue. I wasn't allowed. And so there were all these repressed emotions that I had to deal with later. That was like, that builds up for years in your body. And when that comes out, woo.
Oh, yeah. And on other people, like I really had to hone that in and just take a lot of stuff, unlearn it, and just even to this day say, oh, that's not mine. That's not mine. That's not mine. This is mine. And like the study of self, like I know how to kind of manage that now, and kind of be more aware of that. But anything that's not mine, you can take that right back. Like, I don't need that anymore.
I'm going to leave room for my truth. Here, you take your untruth.
Yeah. And they've almost become a block for themselves. It's just like anybody, I mean, even grandparents or like relatives, like it's like,
I don't think people realize this, but you can kind of put an energy bubble around yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going to be around people that like suck your energy or energy vampires, or that it's going to be stressful for you. You can kind of set yourself up, and you can help your kids with this too, of just knowing that you have an energy bubble that you can put around you to bounce that off. Like there's these unseen things that we can do, and we have the power to do if we're aware of them, and if we give each other the tools and strategies. I mean, even people who have trauma and different things, we have so much in our human body and our senses that can empower us and can bring us back to center and can keep us from taking the wrong things on. But we have to be aware of them. We have to know what's true for us, and we have to have people around us in our lives that support it and honor it, and then put the others who don't in their place a little more out of that inner circle.
I'd say they're not being rude. It's almost like it gets a lot of adults, to kind of say, well, what is your end game for getting them to do what you want, or to have a conversation maybe they're not comfortable having with you in particular. You know, like, what is your end game for this? Like, you know, is it that important to you? Is it just demanding this kind of respect? Like, what is it? Like,
you can't demand respect.
No.
No, I can't demand I am an adult, you are little, therefore I am.
No, we got it. Like, because they eventually get to be adults, and, you know, and they're not going to be that way forever. And it's really helping them honor their sense of self, and not just kind of being bogged down. Like, and that was something that, like, a lot of family members or friends that still wrestle with me, but it's like, you know, like that, oh, talk to your uncle, whoever, who on the phone, like, you know, like those uncomfortable conversations, or give so-and-so a hug. For my son, like, it's like, absolutely not, like, absolutely not. Like, and it's funny that there's some people he'll go to, and that he's probably met like 1 or 2 times, but he likes their energy.
Yes.
Whereas there's people we see over and over and over again, and he is just like, I stopped that crap, so to speak. Like,
they're allowed to honor their truth. They're allowed,
like, of shoving him toward.
They have agency.
Go give him a hug. Like, no.
They get to choose ultimately if they want to be a part of your life. They are going to be an adult. They don't just have to be because you're their mom, or their dad, or their sister, or their brother. And so it is so important today that we communicate in a way that is respectful and meaningful and honors each other's truth. That's what gives the depth in the relationships, where you don't have to ask for the respect.
Absolutely.
They already know that you respect them, and they respect you. In fact, you're going to inspire them more to want to not disappoint you, because you honor who they are and you believe in them at a level that is beyond this domineering, I am the adult.
Yeah, because we always have to think about where that's coming from. Yeah. That's where it's like, when you stop and think, well, what am I trying to achieve with that? Or why is it so hurtful that I'm not getting this kind of reaction? Or why aren't they doing what I want them to do? And then, as, like, you know, like, really play those questions out in your head. And then it kind of is like, oh, I'm kind of being really cringy, and I'm like, I want some kind of control over someone, because maybe you don't have that over your own life, or somebody has that over you.
Yeah, often what bothers us in someone else is a reflection of ourselves.
Right.
And that can even be in our kids. I know my mom's like, I'm going to curse you with a child just like you. And I'm like, yep, I got one just like, so, you know, I recognize that. And you know, the thing is, sometimes then your kids surprise you when you honor and respect them and give them proper boundaries and show up in a way that's honest and authentic. Then sometimes they surprise you and do things you would have never even thought for them, but you are delighted. You are just, it's joyful because they created it on their own. You just facilitated the support, and they went for it. And I think that's probably the most rewarding part of being a parent, is when you get to see them really step into their truth and who they are. Well, we're short on time. Any last thoughts?
Oh my goodness. No, just allow your kids to do their own inner work, and guide them with whatever they need, whatever they are asking for, whether that's therapy, whether that's Gene Keys, whether that's just allowing them to just be, because I think kids are more intuitive in knowing who they are. It's when we kind of start to pile on our stuff on them that they lose that. And I've completely lost that. I miss that little weird Sasha in elementary school, who didn't care, who daydreamed, who had fun. So I just let them be, like, because now I'm spending my entire adult life having fun doing it, but I'm spending my entire adult life finding myself again. It's a joyful, like, path, but it would have been nice to just kind of just discover more about myself instead
of there sooner. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Not have to unlearn quite so much.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, listeners. Thank you for being here. I hope that gives you some ideas on ways that you can parent resiliently and truthfully and authentically with your kids to serve them, so that we can build the next resilient generation. God bless. We believe in you, believe in yourselves, and we'll see you next time.